He's Nick Wright, first things first, and all-around good guy. Let me start with NBA news there for you, Nick. Explain Gordon Hayward's philosophy, game plan here of where's he going to end up?
Well, wherever he can get one more contract would be my guess. I don't blame him for this. Obviously, what's happened in Boston, he's been totally snake bit. It started as terribly as something can start. You getting injured in the first half of your first game. He's kind of, because of his level of play since then, been lowered on the rotation as far as level of importance. And I know people look at Gordon Hayward is opting out of $30 million. Well, yeah, but he's probably opting into what will undoubtedly be less per year, but more total. I think he'll probably get 3 years, 60-some million dollars, maybe from a team like the Hawks that has money to burn and is trying to add some veteran leadership. I reported last week, I think they're targeting Rondo to try to help kind of guide along Trae Young. So I think that's what happens there. And it's another, if you ask me, I mean, Celtic fans need to understand they can't replace the asset. They needed him to opt in and then trade him or do something. They don't have the money to replace the asset. And so Boston, it's really interesting, Dan. If Boston, had the hijack with the Nets are going to tear it up, build it up, tear it down, and build it back up before the Celtics make an NBA Finals with that heist from them nearly a decade ago now.
Has this Celtics team underachieved?
Oh, I think so. I don't know if the team – let me rephrase. I think Danny Ainge is underachieved. I don't know if you saw the latest, report. Former Boston Herald reporter, I apologize, I don't have the name in front of me, retweeted yesterday.
Steve Bulpett.
Thank you, Steve Bulpett. I assume he used to go on SportsCenter with you back in the day. He reported that they had interest in James Harden, but then they cooled on it because of tertiary reasons, which makes James Harden the 13th consecutive big name free agent or possible player that Danny Ainge thought about, but decided this 11-year-old in Southern California who he holds the draft rights to in 2028 is just too good to give up. And so you didn't go and get Kawhi, the team that did won the title. You didn't go and get Anthony Davis, the team that did won the title. And you're not even going to attempt to get James Harden. And instead, the Nets, the Sixers, the Bucks all might be better than you, and that's just in the East next year.
Yeah, I just wonder what the game plan is for the Celtics, because I do think Danny Ainge, there's been moments of brilliance there. And you have this young team. I don't know where Kemba is. I mean, I think Kemba he certainly looks spent. I love Tatum and Jaylen Brown, but I don't know. Do you think they would really consider James Harden in Boston?
Well, I don't think they will, and it's because they overvalue their own guys. Listen, Jason Tatum is an excellent player. But Celtic fans have decided he's going to win multiple MVPs. He'll never win one. And so you don't have a guy that's going to be a top 5 guy in the league. You could have had Kawhi Leonard for Jaylen Brown, who is a poor man's version of Kawhi Leonard. And you're like, no, we can't do it. And you can say, oh, Anthony Davis wasn't going to re-sign. Okay, you could still try to go win the title. And you have made one big swing since you've had all these assets, and it was a swing and a miss. It was Kyrie, and he couldn't wait. He said, I'm going to stay there forever, and then couldn't wait to get out of there. So I just feel like, Boston calls itself Title Town. The only team that's not holding up its end of the bargain is the Celtics. They've got one ring since the Berlin Wall fell, and that's because Kevin McHale gift-wrapped him Kevin Garnett. So I just don't know when they're actually going to go for it.
If you ran the Rockets, what would you do?
Try to convince them to buy me out so I can go to a better situation like Daryl did. I mean, talk about an all-time move. I mean, hey, listen, I think I'm going to take some time off, but why don't you give me some money to leave? And, you're $10 million a year for a way better situation. Listen, I empathize with Tillman Fertitta a bit. During the pandemic, if there were 4 businesses you didn't want to be involved in, you'd probably say, all right, the hotel business, the luxury hotel business, that's going to be tough. Casinos, that would be tough. High-end restaurants be tough in the NBA. How about you own only those 4 things and all of those things? So he's in a rough spot. I get that, but I don't know what the hell they're doing. I don't understand. They bought a second-round pick for $4.5 million. That feels more like money laundering than team building to me. I don't know what that is, but I guess it's part of the trade they made for the first-round pick. So I think they're going to have to rip it down. But the problem is the owner wanted them to get off the Chris Paul contract so bad. I believe, I haven't been told this, but I believe with good reason to believe, he was forced to trade James Harden, forced to trade Chris Paul for Russell Westbrook, and you give away all those picks. So now you tear it down, but you don't have your own picks. So what I wouldn't do is trade James Harden for a package surrounding 26-year-old Karis LeVert. If I'm trading James Harden, I'm getting Ben Simmons, I'm getting Michael Porter Jr. How about this? This is a fake trade only I am speculating about. 1-for-1, James Harden, Donovan Mitchell. Donovan's under contract, long-term. You'd have to get Harden over the fact that he's going to have to live in Salt Lake City. But hey, James Harden living in Salt Lake City, he might be a 40-point-a-game guy with no nightlife. Donovan and Gobert, they're never going to get over it. And they're right now best case, fifth best team in the West. But you can't trade him for Karis LeVert and Spencer Dinwiddie, who are 26 and 27 years old in draft picks that are going to be bad picks. You can't do that.
He's Nick Wright from Fox Sports 1, First Things First. You reported this, I think. I want to give you credit for being, the journalist that you are. Woodward and Bernstein, when it comes to James Harden's jersey was retired by a strip club.
Thank you, Dan. Can I tell you something?
This is your legacy.
You know me, I'm a radio guy at heart.
Yeah.
And 7 years ago, when I was in Houston, right after they acquired James Harden, I went and did some investigative journalism at Dreams, made famous by many a Drake song. And James Harden's only been there 6 months. And what they have at Dreams, it's a gorgeous establishment. Again, I was a younger man at the time. They have banners of their most famous performers. Diamond and stuff. And there's
Portia, Cinnamon.
Yeah, absolutely, 1,000%. There is one that is not of one of their performers. It's James Harden's jersey. And I couldn't believe it. Now, pictures are not recommended at those places, but I managed to snap a small one and talked about it on my radio show. But again, I'm doing local radio. Dan Patrick doesn't even know my name at this point in time. Nobody cares. 3 years later, I think Steven Jackson or Matt Barnes, one of them said it on Cowherd show, and they get all the credit. I'm like, I broke this story years ago. So I appreciate you remembering or knowing that and giving me credit for that.
You sent out a tweet on Taysom Hill. You're not all in on Taysom Hill starting for the Saints, I gather.
I can't believe it. In fact, I don't believe it. Sure, is he starting? Sure. Is he going to throw the majority of the passes? That's impossible for me to believe. People think I don't like Taysom Hill. People actually, this isn't a safe space. People think I don't like white quarterbacks. That's not really true, but I understand why people think it is. I have no problem with Taysom Hill. I have a problem with the way Taysom Hill is discussed. There are 32 teams in the league that would love to have Taysom Hill. He can do a little bit of everything. He is definitely worth a roster spot. But he's 30 years old. He's thrown 20 more career passes than me, and he's at $16 million next year. He's not a starting quarterback. Now, I don't know that Jameis is either, but I think Jameis, there's obviously more upside. Jameis is younger. Jameis, we know, has all of the ability except for not turning the ball over. And we found out he got his eyes fixed this summer. Now, I don't know if that means he was colorblind, but maybe he just couldn't see the jerseys. Maybe LASIK surgery, Jameis Winston's going to be a revelation. I just know Taysom Hill's not starting quarterback in this league. I know that. When Cam got COVID, were the Patriots like, hey, Jacoby Myers, he could start? No. Just because he played in high school doesn't mean he gets to start for the team.
You should make a bet, though, if Taysom Hill proves you wrong.
Yeah.
Like,
what's the bet?
Well, you got, everybody on your show. I mean, I'm surprised nobody made a bet with you on Taysom Hill.
Well, here's the thing.
How about you wear a jersey? If he has 2 touchdown passes, then you have Taysom Hill week.
Taysom Hill week?
Yeah, that all you do is say something nice. You wear a jersey. It might be a BYU. You become Mormon.
I just thought about this. I need to right now say something nice about Steve Young. By the way, one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the history of the league. Because I trashed Danny Ainge and Taysom Hill on this show. So there's going to be and Salt Lake City. I didn't even think about it.
Wow.
I know the whole Mormon community is going to be against me. You guys are wonderful people. Evidently, you don't produce great quarterbacks in New Orleans or great GMs in Boston. But aside from that, I got no beef with good folks.
You know what? For the betterment of your career, I'm going to cut you short now and just say send you into the weekend. And I'm rooting for Taysom Hill now. I wasn't. I don't root for anybody, but now I am. I want him to light it up against the Falcons.
Yeah, to make me look like an idiot. That's fair. Yeah. Can I tell you one quick thing? I try to end these things like this.
Okay.
At dinner during quarantine, my daughters what show we watch. We're going to watch a show. My older daughter likes Blackish. My younger daughter, the 7-year-old, oddly enough, has fallen in love with Cosby Show. It causes big conflict. So my wife and I said, you know what? If we're going to watch them, we're going to start watching family movies. And 3 days ago, we stumbled upon the Netflix Adam Sandler catalog. And I said to my daughter, who's right now remote learning, I'm going on his show because I pointed you down there. No, they don't believe me. They're like, what do you mean his show? I'm like, he's a sports guy. No, he's not a sports guy. He's an actor. So you have convinced a young generation of America with your acting chops that that's what you do full time. So how about that?
Would you like an 8x10 glossy that I could make it out to your daughters, to the kids, maybe?
Oh, yeah. That would be great. Okay. That would be great. Just make sure you sign it, the guy from the Adam Sandler movie. Okay. Because they don't know your name.
Okay. Maybe Fritzy can get your daughter's names, and I'll be happy to sign a photo. Does your wife want one? That's
yes. Going to be a soft no, but I'll circle back.
Okay. Thank you, Nick.
See ya.
Have a good weekend. That's Nick Wright.